Welcome to Tutors Plus IB English. I'm Dexter Haywood, an IB English tutor, examiner and workshop leader. And today we're looking at something that can determine the strength of your entire IO before you even speak a word. The extracts that you choose and what those extracts allow you to say builds out and determines how well you can do. And most students choose extracts based on familiarity or convenience. And strong IOs choose extracts based on function, on what that moment in the text can actually do for the argument. Your IB English extract is something that quietly shapes each and every IO. If your extract isn't giving you enough to analyze, everything becomes harder. A student often thinks sometimes that their analysis is weak or that their ideas aren't good enough, when in reality the extract itself didn't contain the movement or the detail or the authorial choices that they needed to unpack. And the extract is the foundation of your IO. It's not just a quote or a paragraph. It's the moment that determines your ideas, your technique choices, your global issue links, your transition, even the overall structure of your bullet points comes down to those extracts. So a strong extract contains meaning that you can interpret, whereas a weak extract forces you into summary, purely because there simply isn't enough happening under the surface. Whereas when that foundation is solid, everything above it becomes clearer, cleaner, and more controlled. So before we talk about what makes a strong extract, we need to clear up a slight misunderstanding that confuses almost every student at some point. Do you choose the global issue first or the extracts first? And it's a sort of chicken and egg dilemma. If you approach it the wrong way, the IO can feel unfocused from the start. But here's the truth. When you're working with your text for the first time, the direction always comes from the text itself. When you think of the writers, they don't create their work thinking in terms of IB global issues or categories. They write from their own cultural movement, their anxieties, their experiences, and the questions that matter to them. So as you read, you start noticing these tensions, those patterns, those concerns, and from that, your global issue begins to emerge naturally. It's not something you invent for the sake of the IO. It's something the text already contains and is waiting for you to recognize it. But once you move into preparing your IO, the relationship reverses slightly. Now, the global issue becomes your organizing principle, the thing that tells you which extracts actually make sense, which moments deepen the idea, and which angle you should prioritize in 10 minutes. So your global issue becomes the thread. It shapes your choices, the direction of your interpretation, and even the structure of your oral. And this process isn't neat or linear. You go back and forth between the text and the idea. And you notice something in the writing, refine your global issue. And then you notice something else, refine it again. Test it against an extract. Adjust the angle, return to the text again. And each time that connection becomes stronger, sharper, more intense. And the extract slowly clarifies the issue. And the issue clarifies the extract. And gradually, they shape each other until the pairing feels completely natural. So the simplest way and cleanest way to see it, your global issue grows out of the text. But once you start preparing the IO, the global issue is what organizes how you return to the text. And when that balance is clear, when the text drives the issue and the issue drives your selection, choosing the right extract becomes far easier. And your whole IO extract and your whole IO becomes more coherent. So a strong extract, what is it? How do you choose one? They're not necessarily dramatic or emotional. It's a moment where the writer is actively shaping meaning. And that's meaning that you can interpret, not describe. You want a moment where the global issue is already present, where the writer is doing something deliberate with tone, structure, imagery, voice, rhythm, perspective, and so on. Or in non-literary text, looking at layout, framing, visual contrast, composition. And crucially, something must develop. Maybe the voice shifts. Maybe the imagery intensifies. Perhaps the pacing changes and creates pressure. Or maybe a visual element redirects your attention. But there has to be something for you to unpack. And that movement is what gives your analysis somewhere to go, and it creates a natural line of thought, how meaning begins, how it changes, and how it lands. And if nothing shifts inside the extract, your analysis has nowhere to develop either. And remember, if you're finding this helpful, feel free to click like and subscribe below so you don't miss the next IB English guide. I'll see you there. And then when you think you found a good extract, the test is actually very simple. Read it aloud and ask yourself, can I explain what the writer is doing here and why? If the answer is yes, you're in strong analytical territory. You're focusing on meaning and method. You're not retelling it. Then take a step back, zoom out. Does this moment help me say something meaningful about my global issue? And if it doesn't, the extract may be interesting or beautiful or intense, but it won't support the IO. So the extract and the global issue must work together. And when the technique, the effect, and the issue align, the IO gains clarity. And there are certain types of extracts that consistently limit students, even when a student is capable of much stronger work. One is the purely descriptive moment, the scene-setting paragraph that looks vivid, looks fantastic and colorful, but it isn't actually doing much with meaning. And in this case, you might get trapped naming what you see instead of analyzing why it matters. Another is the plot-heavy moments, where so many different events happen at once that you end up narrating to keep up with the action rather than interpreting the author's actual choices. And then there's the extract that only lets you say one thing. It might be powerful, but if everything circles back to the same idea, the IO starts to sound repetitive. So the strongest extracts don't overwhelm you or starve you. They offer just enough movement and just enough craft to let that meaning unfold naturally. When you start analyzing that extract, you're taking it to the next stage, think of it as walking the examiner through how meaning builds, not as filling in a template or telling them what happens. So natural line of analysis could sound like this. You notice what stands out, da-da-da. You explore how the writer creates it. You interpret why it matters, and you link it to your global issue. For example, the shift to fragmented syntax reflects the character's loss of stability, revealing how the global issue of psychological control intensifies in the moment. It's clean, it's interpretive, and it ties everything together. And the key is that you're always moving from the choice to the effect to the issue. And that rhythm keeps you out of summary and firmly inside of criterion A and B. And remember that the examiners don't reward the technique that you name. They reward the meaning that you can explain. Now, the next step then is a crucial aspect of why you must use the entire extract that you choose. You're not limited to which parts you can choose, and you should be aiming at approximately 300 words. But within that, you can choose the selection. And one of the clearest signs of a strong understanding is whether you address that whole extract rather than a chunk of it. And instead of clinging to an opening or a middle or an ending because it feels safer, the examiner needs to know how the entire moment that you selected constructs meaning. So out of your entire extract, why did you choose this part to begin with and this part to finish with? And how does the entire thing construct meaning and reflect back to your global issue? If the tone shifts towards the end, or the pacing tightens towards the middle, a beginning detail reframes that issue, and you ignore them, the examiner immediately questions your control of the text. And a simple fix here is to map the movement of the extract before you write your bullets. Ask yourself, where does the moment begin? What does it intensify? And where does it land? And then bring them back to the global issue. And when you show that you understand the shape of your extracts, the analysis feels anchored and complete. And remember, if you skip the ending or the middle, the beginning, the examiner hears that gap instantly. So a strong IO then doesn't treat the extract as that isolated page when we come back to the way of work. And this is crucial as your global issue becomes essential. You want to show how the issue continues or deepens or shifts beyond the extract that you've chosen. In literature, that might be through recurring motifs, contrast in character development, or a structural echo somewhere in the narrative. And in non-literary texts, it might be a tonal repetition across a campaign, a visual strategy used again in a different context, or a shift in messaging across the body of the work. And what matters is that the extract isn't the whole story. It's the starting point for your argument, and then you'll build on it. Now, if you'd like personalized guidance choosing extracts, refining your global issue, or building a clear structure for your I/O, you can book a session with me, Dexter Haywood, or another IB English specialist at Tutors Plus. Thank you. And remember, subscribe below, click like, so you don't miss the next IB English guide. And best of luck preparing your I/O. Bye-bye.